Hi everybody, this is Q of Cars, I am Mike, and this is my latest purchase, an old school tachometer, which I believe is from the 1970s, and I found this one on eBay for just 25 euro. And my idea is to put that one in my 1978 Ford Transit Westfalia camper van. Today I want to show you how easy it is to install such a tachometer to a classic car with a point ignition system, or alternatively, what idiot I am to break the tachometer and ruin the car, but hopefully not. Before we start with the installation, there is maybe the question, why on earth would I need a tachometer in a slow old camper van with just 65 horsepower, which is probably the embodiment of sluggishness. But the answer is exactly because it is so short of power. I need to motivate every single horse under the hood, but without over-reffing and destroying the engine. At the moment I am driving up a very steep mountain road in the Austrian Alps, that's Sölk Pass. And I am in second gear, my max speed is about 40 kilometers per hour, and anytime I have to go through one of these hairpin turns, I have to shift down to first gear, speed dwindling to about 20-25 kilometers per hour. Now is one of these hairpin turns, going into first, around the corner. Revving up, shifting, and yes, it's enough. Back into second. As the engine is anyway quite loud, it's difficult to assess how high it's already revving, and that's exactly the reason why I definitely need a tachometer. How do we have to hook up the 4 wires? I will show you now. We have red, black, blue and green. To make things complicated, they are not always the same colors, so always check your wiring diagram, or in this case we have some indication on the back side of the tachometer. So in my case the red one is power, and power when the ignition is switched on, because you do not want to have that on battery power, which is then permanently on and could easily drain your battery when the car is not used. Then black one is ground. These are usually always in this color combination. Here you find often different ones. In my case the green one is the dash light, so the illumination of the tachometer. Often this one is white. Then blue, point means point ignition system, so for the tach signal. You connect the blue wire with the minus side of the ignition coil, and often this one is green. So be careful, because you do not always have the same colors. The black one in my case is labeled 4-cylinder. That's a bit misleading because it's the ground cable, but you would also have here a connection point for 6-cylinder, so you can change between 4 and 6 cylinders. Why is it important to have 2 different connections for 4 or 6-cylinder, or alternatively a switch? Because the tach doesn't anything else but read the pulses which come from the distributor to the ignition coil, and each pulse means the engine fires, 1 cylinder fires, and the tach just divides this number of pulses by the number of cylinders, and then you have 1 rotation of the engine. Before I properly hook up everything, I think it's a good idea to do a little bit of a test if the tach works, or if it's maybe broken, then I don't have to do all the other work. Always make sure to disconnect the battery before you start working. The tach cable I will temporarily wind around this minus of the coil. I mean, later I will do that nicer, but for the test that's good enough. That is now temporarily attached. Not to damage anything, I put an 8 amp fuse in the cable. Red I will hook up with battery power at the moment, because I don't want to make it too complicated. Now comes the moment of truth. I will start it. And hopefully it doesn't explode. And it works! Fantastic! So at least the wiring was correct. Well, under the dash it looks like a rat nest. To my excuse, it was not me doing this kind of wiring, but what we have to do now is find a port in the fuse box with a power supply when the ignition is switched on. And how can we find that? In this case, a multimeter is very handy, but you can also use just a screwdriver with a test lamp, and that's same easy to do. Hook up negative on a body panel. In my fuse box there is not really any spare port available, but I found this one here, which already has a 8 amp fuse. The ignition is switched off. The multimeter shows 0. So that means no power when the ignition is switched off. Now we switch on the ignition. And we do the same test again. 12 volt, that's perfect. In this port we have power when the ignition is on, exactly what we are looking for. So I will connect my red cable from the tachometer with this cable here. In my case I do not want to connect the cable for the dash light because I don't need an illuminated tachometer, but it would be the same way to find. So you switch on your lights, you check a port where you have power when your light switch is on, and you check again when the light switch is off. When then the power is off, then it's a port you could connect. As I don't want to drill any holes in the dashboard, I thought it would be a good position here under the steering wheel. That's very well visible, and I have already 2 holes which I can use, I think. I thought I could make maybe something like this here. I mean, at the moment that's just cardboard, but it would be possible to have that laser cut in maybe 2mm steel, or even use 3D printing. I made this now myself just with original cardboard, and then a lot of lamination of extra plastic material, and even this surface now looks like this leatherette material, which I have anyway on the top of the dashboard. I think that's quite okay. The only thing left to do now is connecting the wires, and that's very easy now. The tachometer is properly installed and hooked up now, so let's start the engine and see if it works. Perfect! It idles at 1000 RPM and revs up smoothly. I would be interested now to see what are the RPMs at certain speeds, and especially what are the perfect times for shifting. So let's find a nice mountain road and test it. In the past, my ultimate speed for shifting from first to second was 25 kilometers per hour, but that's only 3,500 RPM. My red line is at 4,800, so I could shift as late as 40 kilometers per hour, but I do not want to stress the old engine too much, so I would say 4,000 RPM is enough, and that would be 30 kilometers per hour to shift from first to second. Next is second to third. I always shifted at 45 kilometers per hour, and that's exactly 4,000 RPM, so my gut feeling was totally correct. Finally, third to fourth, I always used to shift not later than 70 kilometers per hour, but that's only 3,700 RPM. So if you set your personal limit at 4,000 RPM, it would be possible to shift as late as 75 kilometers per hour. On flat roads, I usually have a cruising speed of 80 kilometers per hour in 4th gear, and that's only 3000 RPM. That's definitely a level that won't stress the engine at all. What is the conclusion of this mini project of installing a tachometer? I think it was a very good idea. I am much more relaxed now knowing that the engine is revving a little bit lower than I expected. And I think it is definitely a must-have item for any manual car. In case that you are also toying with the idea now of installing a tachometer, I have made up a small selection of aftermarket tachometers currently listed on Amazon for sale. If you are interested in that, just check out in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel. And if you also own a car which has missing a tachometer, please let me know in the comments below. But also if you say a tachometer is a completely useless device. See you next time. So that's really cool. I think the mountain area here in Austria is just so beautiful.